This is FCTV, fan-controlled television. Programs created and produced for the fans, by the fans of fan-controlled sports and entertainment. As always, power to the fans. And now, it's time for the show.
Tick, tick, tick.
Ooh,
tick,
let's do it.
Tick tock, Mr. Wick. Tick tock. That's my Jason Mantzoukas impression from John Wick, Chapter 3. Antebellum. Hey, Alex, what's going on?
Running and gunning. I'm doing good. Kenny, how are you?
I mean, we had some major computer malfunctions, which is why we are starting our show 27 minutes late. But hey, we're here and we are ready to blow up the Cape Space. Hi, I'm Kenny Stevenson.
I'm Alex Enriquez. Welcome to Fan Controlled Fandom. And hold on to every butt you've got.
Hold on to all 5 of your butts because we are in the Cape Space. You need a cape to cover up all 5 of your butts. You also need a cape when you are flying through the air fighting people. You need a cape when you're flying in a TIE fighter or when you're on top of a dragon getting ready to go crazy on a city that you wanted to rule. It's the Cape Space, baby. Here we are. I've gotten like 6. I said that as soon as we switched to this computer, I've gotten like 7 Slack messages and a bunch of emails. Oh, incredible.
You should Slack back to everybody. Hold on, crackle, crackle. The connection is really fuzzy, crackle, crackle, and see what they do with that.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, I don't want my supervisors to check in on what's happening in my life because if they wanted to, they would know that I've got some notes. Anyway.
Hey, dude, you know what? Boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I take a dump on the company's time.
On that note, let's get to the quick pieces of nerd news. We should say first, this show is called Another Batch of Bad Batch. Disclaimer, we had said fully that we were going to be doing Dune Part 2 this week. I was not feeling well yesterday, and you were not able to go see it. So guess what? We're like, I don't know, name a famous punter. We're going to punt. We're punting that the next week.
Pat McAfee.
Is he a punter?
He was.
He was. So is destroying one of the owners of one of the teams here at the Fan Controlled Football. Destroying used to be a punter.
Oh, I love it. Punters rule.
Punters rule. And we're going to punt Dune Part 2 to next week. So we're going to talk about episode 4 of The Bad Batch. But first, we got to hit the quick pieces of nerd news. It's called Quick Hits. Here we go. Here's the stinger. Quick Hits.
It fills me with power every time I hear it.
It fills me with so much power. It's like plugging in an electric guitar and just letting it rip all over your face. What about Fat McAfee? Freddie Airmail just jumping in, baby.
I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to say that on Twitch, dude. Like that's a terms of service violation for sure.
Who knows what you can and can't? Well, I'm going to jump all over. There's a lot of different news this week. There's some news, there's some not news. There's a lot of news. I think because we were just talking about Dune, I want to talk about this story because, Josh Brolin, if you've been watching any of the press tour or any of the anything he's been posting on his Instagram leading up to Dune Part 2, the man has just been crushing it. Like, just like his take on the popcorn bucket is fantastic. He posted something last week that was like, come out and see Dune. It's like Wonka and that other chick from Euphoria doing stuff. And then it's just like, just talking it about as if like, hey, I know you don't read any of this stuff. I probably don't read it too. I haven't got time for this Guga. So why don't you come out and watch a bunch of sandworms?
I'm so shell-shocked by the modern media age that I can't even just have fun with this because I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and for it to be like, and anybody that got the jab is going to hell or like Mexicans got to go back or something, it feels like it's about to edge into that.
Yeah, he's circling around like, hey, everything tells the truth except Moderna. He's getting real close to that, real close.
But in the meantime, heck of a ride. This dude is... I think the word unhinged gets thrown around a lot, but let's just say we're not used to seeing celebrities react with this much candor about just like anything.
Everything. Yeah, and so he was asked recently, this is how it plays, not just the Dune part, but he was in a movie called Jonah Hex, which is one of the most, it's a comic, it's not a DC, is it a DC property?
It's a DC property, yes.
DC property, it's not officially part of the DCEU, but it's like, it's a DC movie. And he was in it, and it's kind of universally seen as like a very which is saying something with the DC, but as a very bad film. And he was asked in an interview this week with GQ. He continues to badmouth the career misstep he encountered in the past with the DC movie 2010's Jonah Hex. In an interview, he says, "I won't ever stop shitting on Jonah Hex because it was a shitty effing movie." He admitted that the failure was squarely on his shoulders since he had rushed to hire a director for the film, and the one who took up the task, Jimmy Hayward, was far too inexperienced to take on a big budget film. He was given 2 weeks by Warner Brothers to find a director, and Brolin explained, "Then you meet somebody who has a lot of knowledge, Jimmy Hayward, and I remember it didn't feel right. I love that he was excited, but he just didn't have the experience. He didn't treat it like I would imagine somebody would want to treat it. To run back to their house at the end of every day and watch tonal inspirations in Scorsese movies or this or that. He would be out partying instead."
What, a Hollywood guy not being professional? My jaw is on the floor.
Brolin fully takes the blame for the film's failure since he made the initial decision to hire a director who wasn't the right director. "It reminded me that you can't just keep essing on somebody. You don't know what the F's going on in his life. I mean, total facial reconstruction, the whole thing." I guess the guy got in some trouble. But I just love that he's just like, "Hey, ask me about these movies that I was in. I'm going to tell you how much they still suck." Yeah.
Oh, man. Let's not get into all the shenanigans on the set of Goonies. I'm sure it's ripe for the picking.
Don't get me started about Feldman.
Yeah. He held Data out over like a pond and shook change out of his pockets.
Let's just say Corey Feldman's character wasn't just named Mouth on set. He was
right. We need to take it easy.
Running his mouth all the time. Anywho, that just was great. I just do yourself a favor and just go find Josh Brolin on social media. He's just been like just crushing it. Like, I just wish more stars just understood what they were doing, which is like playing and like this is nonsense world. We're in the cave space. This is all Guga, like whatever. I mean, Dennis Villanueva, we'll talk about it next week. He's definitely like bringing like a more bringing. I mean, Dune Part 2, for all intents and purposes, seems like it's going to be nominated for Best Picture already. It's like at 97% of Rotten Tomatoes and all the things. Dennis Villanueva is great.
Danny Quesadillas does it again. If anybody could have, and I think it takes a lot of belief in something, not only the potential of a piece of IP, but also like a creator to be able to back him this much. They wanted to do with the original Dune, and we'll kind of get into that a little later in the show in the game time portion. But ooh, tantalizing. I just love that
sizzling
around a sci-fi movie, one of the big tomes, probably like the Lord of the Rings of science fiction.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. We'll save it then. One of the other tomes of not really a tome, a movie that, like, frankly, I'm still to this day shocked that we got a sequel for. Tron. Tron was one of my favorite movies growing up. I absolutely loved that movie. I'm an old fart. I saw Tron in the theater. So to see that we got a sequel, Tron Legacy, that was pretty good. I don't know.
It was aggressively okay, and that was the problem with it. It needed to have been better or much worse to be anything.
Yeah, aggressively okay is a good way to take it. And some suspect digital de-aging of Jeff Bridges, I think, was kind of like the real. I don't know if that worked as well as they were thinking it was going to. And plus that guy, Garrett Hedlund. There's a reason why Garrett Hedlund is no longer headlining movies anymore, because they were like, how sometimes they try to make something happen and then it doesn't happen. And then they're like, well, we gave you a shot. Why don't you go do a shot on do a show on the WB or whatever the hell he's doing right now. But
that's what whenever I watch like old movie channels and you see like a name of a guy who's in like 5 movies and he goes away, in 1965, you're like, oh, that's a guy that they tried to make happen. And he didn't happen. He didn't become Spencer Tracy or whatever. He was just a dude who had like the kind of career you and I would absolutely envy.
Kill for.
And then blips.
And then he's just
Josh Brolin snap away.
And just like, guess what? You're going to be NCIS Philadelphia. There you go. Done. But we are getting another Tron movie. It's called Tron Ares. The there is no Jeff Bridges, but there is Jared Leto. And in my heart of hearts, I hope that Jared Leto is like doing a Jeff Bridges impression, just because when you get crazy Jared Leto, stuff happens. That's really fun. I mentioned this because we got our first, this is a film that has actually started production, and we actually got our first image of something they are calling the User, because Tron Ares follows a sophisticated program, Ares, who is sent from the digital world into the real world on a dangerous mission, marking humankind's first encounter with AI beings. So this will be a real like cautionary tale. But
no. Here's one of the hallmarks of Tron is at every turn it shows an utter ignorance of what technology actually is comprised of or how it works. So this will be wackadoodle squared.
I'm loving it. Did you see? Maybe so you've seen this image that we got.
Yeah, it's just
I love it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I love stuff that looks like that. Who doesn't?
It's like a robot-y thing. Part of me wishes like the original concept of the film is just silly, like just a silly concept that a human being is digitally brought into a computer, and that somehow computer programs are also kind of humans. And then at one point he kisses another, and I'm like, what are you kissing? Like, what is this? Like, it's up there. It's up there with something that we need to have. And I think when Tron Ares comes out, we're going to have some real fun conversations about it.
I mean, the one thing it has going for it is that now more than ever, we are like putting people into the digital world, like even
that's true. That's
virtually. Fair. So like, okay, you already have a kind of a playground you can mess around in. But yeah, the original Tron is clearly from the only people that knew anything about computers that were involved in the making of Tron were the people who were using the computers to make those graphics. And that's it. Like the writers are like, I don't know, he gets shot with some kind of laser. Then he's inside one of these cockamamie things that's the size of a house.
And instead of like programs could be like big giant tanks, and that programs have to play each other, because what if the game was actually what was happening inside the computer done? Like, here we go. I mean, look, it's Ready Player One. I just finished Ready Player Two, and oh boy, I might say
a steaming pile of Player Two.
I might see exactly. I might say that for the Hoopla recommendations. So something that also started that officially started this week. We talked about it last week. The Superman Legacy has started. James Gunn posted an image of the insignia. It's kind of a new insignia, and a little note saying like, "Hey, when I wrote this and I announced that it's Superman Legacy, but now that we're shooting it, guess what? It's actually just called Superman.
Superman.
So it's just called Superman. So I mean, I feel like that is him." I think it's a pretty big flex, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems to be happening more and more though in the fan space, as more of these like projects have to be forecast like 10 years in advance. I mean, consider that the Agatha Harkness show is now on its 4th title or something.
Oh, I know. It's crazy, right?
Even back into the roots of, look, it was Revenge of the Jedi before it was Return of the Jedi. I mean, these things are sort of ever changing as they find themselves. But I really do like how definitively he is taking it. Like, it's not Returns, it's not Begins, it's just bam, Superman. He's gonna plant his flag, and I have a real stupid optimistic belief that he's gonna land this bird. I really do. I think his take and the source material that he seems to be pulling from, please, Jimmy, don't let me down. I'll throw myself off the roof of my 2-story apartment.
Jimmy Gunn. Yeah, I think this is a real just do it. Like, yeah, like, you know what? I'm rebooting this thing. We're doing this thing. I have whole control of this thing. I'm taking you gave me the biggest property. No one has ever let James Gunn have like the thing. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy here. Yeah, you can have this like D level, not even D, I don't know, G or P level star comic book. Have at it. Go crazy with that. And he turned that into a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And then even DC, when he was briefly fired, it was like, you can do Suicide Squad again, like another like C, D, E level thing. And you can take that and then take a C or D level character from that movie, Peacemaker, make it into a TV show. And now he's just got Superman. He's like, you know what? This is my baby. This is Superman. Done. This is the first time since since Christopher Reeve, we are just going to call a Superman movie Superman. Done.
I think too that like he proves his bona fides by taking these D-level Guardians of the Galaxy characters, boosting them in importance within their own universe and within the fan community, such that they are heavily included in the culmination of all, like the biggest movie that had ever come out of Marvel. They're heavily factored in, and he is singularly able to guide their inclusion and how they act, like his voice and how they articulate his voice. It's so important that it exists together, that they like, I don't think any of the other like movie directors or creative people involved in any of the other Marvel properties to that point were asked to give input on how those characters are being used in the big crossover, except for James Gunn.
I mean, he's proving his worth here, right? Like this is like him just being like, look, they let me do this, so guess what? I'm doing it, baby. This is what's happening.
Even just the logo they've chosen. The logo they've chosen is like such an it's not something you look at and go, hey, what's the S mean? You kind of have to like you can see how people would look at it in that world and go, oh, it kind of looks like an S, and connect it to something, but it's also reminiscent of an existing design from a really great story that'll be in my Hoopla recommendations later on.
Ooh, look at you.
Again, source material and the fact that, come on, James Gunn gets to make a Superman movie, and right off the bat, Metamorpho is going to be in it. Come on, anybody who's read a comic book in their life, that's got to give them little goose pimples. Come on,
all the feels. Yeah, totally. This is such great news. I had written down in the show notes a lot of Marvel rumors, and because of my computer failure, I have been unable to find the posts, and I can't remember them all. Only thing I remember is that this guy, his name is Daniel RPK, I believe his Twitter handle, but and it's like, whatever, it's on Reddit, but this guy has proven himself in the past. Like, I think he's right. Like his predictions are right somewhere in like 80% of the time. And he said specifically that in Captain America, Brave New World, the Serpent Society, which is a kind of like, I don't want to say famous, but in terms of Captain America, like especially the Falcon version of Captain America, it's been there's been a lot of comic lore of him fighting against the Serpent Society. That they have apparently been fully scrapped from the film. Like they were supposed to be like these major set pieces that they have to reshoot over the summer now. That is removing them from the film. So I don't know what that would merit, but that's fascinating stuff. Fascinating.
Yeah, I think we're not too far away from AI being able to, and this might be a possible good usage of AI, is that you would be able to show a test audience a fairly fully realized but completely artificially generated version of maybe not the whole movie, but certainly some of these giant swing set pieces before you assemble people for months on end.
Assemble those Avengers?
Night shoots, like in the way that I think this could be like the next step in the way that Lucasfilm and Disney have really weaponized pre-visualization. Like now you could do something like post testing almost, like again, before you do this whole thing with the Serpent Society, and then you have to ultimately cut it, which is a bummer for myriad reasons. I mean, sure, those are jobs, those are people that got to work and got paid and everything, but there's something else to it. And, I'm sure bottom line wise, it's great if you can demonstrate, hey, we're able to not have to invest in all these things that ultimately don't work by putting a little money here into AI generated stuff, thus saving labor, which is what AI was supposed to do in the first place anyway, just to minimize unnecessary labor.
Which we all know from watching any of the Guga, that will turn out terribly.
Star Wars has got it pretty good, but they sass off. You got to allow the robots to sass off. If they have to be like,
robots got to be able to sass, and you got to be able to lay with it, as Lando Calrissian.
You got to lay with them, and at least like maybe 1% of them get guns. Like 99% don't get guns, but like 1% of them are gun robots, and the rest are like C-3POs, and then the rest are R2-D2s. I think that's a good mix.
I think it's a good mix. If you lay with a robot, do you have to say you're making the robot with two backs? Moving along.
You're making the row with two bots.
The rope. Oh, well done. Two real quick pieces here because these are quick hits. One of the most saddest, this is like kind of cave space adjacent, but this is one of the saddest pieces of news beyond like actual like real travesties and like disasters and death in the world. This movie, Coyote versus Acme, that Warner Brothers, if you don't know, this is a movie that was supposed to be a live action film that was going to have star Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And it was going to be about Coyote is trying to sue Acme for all of their failed products. It's a great concept. Had Will Forte, I think Will Forte had even written part of the script. John Cena. John Cena was the lead. This was a $110 million film that I forget if it was supposed to be for Max only or if it was going to be a theatrical. I think it was a theatrical release, right?
At that level of money with John Cena, it feels theatrical to me.
But because Warner Brothers is not really a studio anymore, they are a place that produces content where people are on islands that have to get off the island and they got to do, or like people who are rebuilding homes. And David Zaslav, he's up there in terms of terrible human beings. They pulled this movie. they pulled this movie much as they did with the Batman. But this is a movie that was locked. This is a picture like the Batgirl movie was still in final edit. They had locked picture, but they weren't in final. This Coyote versus Acme film is done, including hundreds and hundreds of hours of animators and digital effects artists who have put Coyote into this, like walking around in a human space. And this was a movie that they tried to see if they could have somebody else pick it up. There was a bunch of offers. And rather than Warner Brothers sell the movie, they are just going to delete it. Period. End of story. And Will Forte just said this week, I know a lot of you haven't gotten a chance to see our movie, and it's looking like you never will. So I was thinking that everyone else must have been thinking this must be a hunk of junk, but then I saw it, and it's incredible, is what Will Forte said. Super funny throughout, visually stunning, sweet, sincere, and emotionally resonant in every earned way. As the credits roll, I just sat there thinking how lucky I was to be a part of something so special that quickly turned to confusion and frustration. This was the movie they're not going to release? ? So he posted this, and it's an absolute crime.
It strikes me that somebody like Will Forte, who's not ever in any appearance I've ever seen, anything he's offered publicly has been like earnest in any way, which is fine. Like he has fun. He's a funny guy. He does bits and stuff, but that for him to offer up this like very heartfelt, earnest assessment, like really hits home for me. Like, how important this was to him, and thus like how important it should be maybe to everybody working in this town. Again, it's like that. It kind of goes into that thing I was saying, like referring to the Serpent Society being cut out of the entire movie. Like, those people got paid and their jobs were, the work got done, but that's not the sum total of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that I would love for that to be reconciled with, and it's also a loss for people, the people on that production who count on royalties. I don't, that's not in the works for them.
It's truly scary that for those of us who are creators or people, anybody creating anything, that we live in a world now where studios can give green lights to things, give budgets to things. You can go, you can shoot it, you can do all the work, shoot the whole thing, do all the post-production, and then they can still choose to not release your movie, which means you're never actually given a full official green light. Like from now on, if you get a green light from Warner Brothers, unless you're I don't know if you're a DC property, because they've cut a DC film, they've cut a Looney Tunes movie. There's no bigger IP than freaking Looney Tunes.
And then you consider the stuff they do allow out. Like, so you're going to tell me that The Flash was more release worthy than whatever they were seeing from Batgirl, that it was more release worthy than Coyote versus Acme. I don't, with all of the releasing power that they have, considering they've got Max, and also, that they don't just put it out is obviously galling. But then you look at the other side of what the studio's doing this week, releasing Dune 2, which is an enormous gamble that as I think about it, they didn't take. They're kind of handcuffed to this thing that was the brainchild of the AT&T, corporate parent era. Deploy big creators, big IP, cross-platform stuff. The market's very different now, but if you had not done Dune 2, your shareholders are going to ask you why. So they have to do it. They have to do it Danny Quesadilla's way. But that's the same studio that's like no Batgirl, no Looney Tunes. It's more house decorating shows, more Shark Week.
It's really I'll just wrap it up with just saying this, that they rejected offers from Amazon, Netflix, and Paramount, with Paramount proposing a theatrical release, which Warner Brothers denied. The report says the WB wanted 70 to 80 million and refused to entertain counteroffers. So if you sent an offer and it wasn't 70 to 80 million, which how are they supposed to know that until you get a counter? They didn't counter it. Apparently, executives failed to watch the film's final cut. The report also says that two executives, CEO and Warner Brothers Motion Picture co-chairpersons Michael DeLuca and Pam Addy, reportedly screened a director's cut of the film. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers Pictures Animation president Bill Damashek wanted an audience preview of the live-action animated comedy starring John Cena. Whatever. It's the fact that David Zaslav never even saw the final cut. It's terrifying times. But I'll tell you what. We still got Madam Web out in the world, and that's, hey man,
that's the IP Wild West we live in now. You will get just as many the Batmans as you do shelved Coyote versus Acme's as you do Madam Web.
Madam Web, I'm telling you right now, we didn't do it on the show because I also was sick that week. I've seen it, and it is a movie that almost is like aggressively, actively trying to destroy the Sony Marvel Spider-Man universe. It is hysterical. And I don't think it's, as a Sony employee, it's out of bounds for me to say that, because I'm telling you right now, if you base movie-going experiences based on just the time you had watching the film, I had a great time. I had a great time. I did a little bit of an edible, and I watched that movie, and I laughed continuously. There are so many choices made in that movie that are just like, okay, sure, laughing throughout. And to me, it's like, I don't know, that constitutes a good time at the movies as far as I'm concerned.
Laid your money down and enjoyed yourself, whether or not that was the creator's intent. That's not,
man,
that's not the point.
The only, as we have proven here with what we're just talking about, the only intent in the studio mind is whether or not you paid your money for it or not. They don't care whether you've actually enjoyed the movie or not.
That money spends.
Money spends. This now time is where we gotta breeze through the rest of this show. We're on the Fan Controlled Sports and Entertainment podcast. Sorry, deep breath. Fan Controlled Sports and Entertainment Twitch stream, Facebook TV, YouTube, X. This is the time of the show where we do one piece of sports news. Alex, take us out to the paddock, baby.
Well, the paddock is active once again. It always surprises me when the racing season starts in March, but here we are looking down the barrel of yet another Bahrain Grand Prix and the 2024 Formula One season. The qualifying has already taken place, and your starting three on the grid are Verstappen, Leclerc, and Russell. And actually, that's the exact same starting three as last season's premiere. And eagle-eyed fans have noted that through qualifying round 1, 2, and 3 of both the 2023 season opener and the 2024 season opener, the top three were exactly the same.
Wow, look at you.
So
is that the end of it there?
Back to you, Kenny.
Yeah, fantastic. I love all your talk because I get to like remember things that I'm doing. Like, what do I have to do after this? Because I'm not going to understand. And you know what? And I think the same thing for you when I say that my news this week, the Los Angeles Lakers had a game this week on Wednesday versus the Los Angeles Clippers, in which at one point they were down by 21 points in the fourth quarter, and LeBron James had only scored 19 points for the game. Well, Alex, he then went off and shot 3 consecutive threes in a row, led the team back to 40 points, scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter alone. Do the math. They were down by 21. He scored 21 points all on his own. They came back to win the game by 2, a game that they were frankly losing. They lost all the previous quarters. They lost the first quarter, they lost the second quarter, lost the third quarter. And then at one point in the fourth quarter, they were down by 21 points. They came back to win the game, and it was very exciting. They then followed it up with a 2-point win in overtime over the worst team in the league, the Washington Wizards. So the Lakers need to clean up their act if they want to make their way out of the play-in and into the playoffs. Alex, that's my news. Can't hear you. You can't hear me? Can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear any of us? Is it just blind talking right now? This is fantastic. This is great podcasting. This is great Twitch streaming. Who can be here? Okay, so you can hear me but can't hear Alex. All right, so let's just I hear your microphone doing. I hear microphone stuff happening. Freddie Airmail hears everything. Yeah, you do. That's terrifying.
There we go.
There we go. I
do not know what happened there.
I don't know what happened either, but you know what? We did it. You know what I think we do need to have to help us. You know what really help us with our technical issues is some of our our ads or advertising. Who's our corporate underwriter could help with that stuff. Who's our corporate underwriter for the week?
This week, it's the Los Angeles Coalition for Courteous Dog Ownership. It's a group I've recently joined to try and keep the streets a little cleaner and safer for everybody. And they want to remind dog owners out there how to be more courteous with a couple of helpful hints. Number one, they just want to say picking up after your dog is not only courteous, it's the law. Stepping in dog droppings can ruin a beautiful Los Angeles day. So make sure you pick up after your furry little friends, or we will find you. All we are saying is go ahead and keep leaving dog poop on the grass. You know who you are, flaunting your lack of consideration. Just don't do it around any unmarked vans for a little while, because we gonna get you. That's the Los Angeles Coalition for Courteous Dog Ownership, and they're just trying to keep the streets clean and safe.
We gonna get you.
We gonna get you.
And you're a part of this.
I went to a meeting last week. They are a passionate crew, and
sounds very passionate to me.
We gonna get you.
We going to get you. Fantastic. Well, you know who else is going to get you? The Bad Batch. That's right,
the Bad
baby.
Batch.
The Bad Batch. Again, we had said many times we were going to be doing Dune this week. Alex was not able to go yesterday. I am not feeling well. I'm feeling better, but that's what happens when you have long COVID. That's for another podcast. Anyway, so we're doing Bad Batch, episode 4 of season 3 of Bad Batch. Here's the recap. And I have to do it like this because my other computer over here is right here. So look, when I'm looking over here, that's what I'm reading. The episode 4, A Different Approach, directed by Saul Ruiz, written by Ezra Nachman. With the damage their shuttle sustained in their escape, Omega and Crosshair are forced to crash land on the planet Lao. They make their way to a nearby spaceport where Crosshair opts for using force to hijack a ship, while Omega intends to acquire the money needed to bribe a clerk through gambling. When Batcher is snatched by Imperial troops, Omega goes after her with a reluctant Crosshair following. Imperial troops find and corner them, but they manage to free Batcher, steal a freighter, and escape the planet. Later, they rendezvous with Hunter and Wrecker, leading to a joyous and, in Crosshair's case, tense reunion. I have some thoughts based on that I did not consider until I read this recap, but we'll get to it. Alex, initial thoughts. What do you think of the episode?
I'm having a lot of fun with this season. I was bummed to only get one episode, but we get some, Omega with Crosshair, good dynamic action, the give and take between their methodologies, him learning to trust her more and more, how good she is at being a member of the Batch. I really had a great time. It just a really fun. It had a very specific kind of a different feeling to it. I don't know what it was, but there were touches in this episode that felt very different. I think E.A. Voss pointed out that this is a very cold planet where there's no snow. A very different kind of Star Wars feel. That Imperial commanding officer has a very different kind of look than the usual Star Warsy kind of characters that we get. It feels a little apart from Filoni's usual sort of design I think. But all to the better. I think he looks kind of like Hemlock in the same visual sort of, I think, push. And I like that. It gives some dimension to this thing, and as they build out this aspect of the universe, I wanted. I mean, we get the reunion, but I know we're heading toward big story developments and implications, and I kind of am like, okay, let's go.
It's where you like almost recapped almost everything that I in the show notes in that great recap. That was lovely. We'll dive deeper. Don't worry. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot too. This show has this interesting thing that it's always existed in, which the stakes for it in terms of like lore setting or anything, the expectation setting on it are so low. Like this doesn't have to be Ahsoka. This doesn't have to bring Ezra into live action. This doesn't have to be Mandalorian, which somehow in season 3 has to top, Luke Skywalker coming. There doesn't have any of those stakes, but it is just like quietly doing a lot. There's like a lot that this does to the lore, but doesn't have to. And you're right. Like they're on this planet last night and it's so cold that you can see their breath. Literally and it's not one of these deals where they did it a couple times. It's every single time they're talking, you see the person's breath. And that's like a certain level of detail, which I'm sure they just had AI do. But still, like it's a certain level of detail that's really specific and fun and different. And we've never seen in Star Wars. And it's just interesting how this show just kind of gets to be. And then the thing that's different about this season, I think we touched on it last week, I think it continued, is that we kind of thought that maybe since they were on 2 paths that we would start, the first 3 were going to be kind of linear and that was going to be an arc and then we're going to start another arc. But no, we're on a linear story now. Like we went directly from the last episode, which is the 3rd one, into the 4th episode, and now they're reunited, and they even teased what's going to be happening in the next episode, which is going to be, this tense reunion between Crosshair and Wrecker and Hunter. So it is like it's fascinating. This show is with like almost low level stakes is doing a lot when in storytelling that's impressive, frankly, in a really simple. Now I've got some fun things to point out here and there because it's still an animated show that's essentially for kids, but we'll see.
I think what lore wise to me, the different mandate on it is Ahsoka to me is trying to do something different and new and push out. It's trying to expand the boundaries of Star Wars, into which it's an uphill battle because that is a continuum and a continuity that has a definitive terminus. It can't go any further than the beginning of Force Awakens, really, or Resistance or whatever. It comes right before Force Awakens. Whereas Bad Batch is connecting dots. It's taking elements that are already there and building bridges between. So it's like deepening our understanding of what we already saw, which I appreciate. I know that they're gonna. I appreciate that when we step back from this in a couple of years, you can look at the whole swing of the continuity and go, oh yeah, that's where Snoke came from. He's right over there. They started making him back there before even the Return of the Jedi, where the Emperor dies. Spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody. In 1983, they released the Return of the Jedi and the Emperor was killed. So if you haven't gotten there yet, that's sorry.
No, it's cool.
It's cool.
It's cool. It's fine. I was thinking about it last night because you've mentioned that before, like all this stuff is going to connect. And I was wondering if like, no matter what, because like we saw the original trilogy first. And so everything else is all like filler for this and that. Like, is there going to be a way where like, if we step away from this for like 10 years, and then come back and literally start with whatever, which is going to be like the Acolyte is going to be the first thing that's going to be like live action. That's like chronologically that we can go through this and have like a real, like have that cathartic feeling of it all filling each other in, because to us, like we already know that it's what it's doing because we know what's missing or what, especially in the case of like the Clone Wars, or even what Filoni's doing with, Rise of Skywalker, is like, we know what they're trying to correct or at least make more sense. So it's weird, like, but is that possible? I guess my back of my mind is like, is it going to be possible for us to look at this from a way and not be like, oh, well, they're just filling in the fact that Palpatine's still alive? Or we're going to be like, oh yeah, that did it. Like, I can watch I can go back and now watch Rise of Skywalker and engage with it totally, completely
Oh,
different.
in a way, it doesn't matter if the experience is complete for us because our ability to spend money on Star Wars is limited by our time on this planet. But the children that you and I are going to talk to about Star Wars and deepen their access to when they see a random Disney Channel show and they think it's cool, the lightsabers are cool, and you go, oh, you think that was cool? There's 40, 50 years of crap that you can dive into. It isn't about us. It's about the new consumer who gets to go, oh, no, I see how this all connects. And one of them looks older, but, also some of them are comic books and some of them are radio dramas, that like, what you're trying to do is give as many ways into that sandbox to as many kinds of people as possible. And that's all about kids. It's all about getting new, younger consumers on. And like whatever kind of consumer you are, there's a kind of a Star Wars out there that'll grab you.
I mean, yeah, I should just talk to my daughter. She did watch when we sat down to watch them. She wanted to start with one, so we watched Phantom Menace first. So she watched them Phantom Menace up to Jedi, and that's how she watched the Star Wars movies. We did not watch Rogue One before we watched Star Wars because I was like, we could watch Solo and Rogue One, and I was like, Solo, she didn't really. I don't know why we didn't watch Solo, but Rogue One, I was like, I think Rogue One was the first one where I was like, if you're scared of Darth Vader, Rogue One's not for you.
Yeah, and I feel like we get into another thing here where certain things so Rogue One has things in it that are references to later movies.
Yep,
that were released earlier. They're happened later chronologically, but were released earlier for us. That it does, like, you do have these moments in the movies that I guess are Easter eggs for people that know, that have relevance only because they are a reference to something that happens chronologically later that was released earlier for us.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think is different, is that like it'd be different if the content all didn't exist to where it wasn't nodding to itself further. Whatever, that's a whole other story. Let's talk about
look, if you talk to your daughter about this, by the way, and you are able to articulate, well, it's like this because the movie that takes place later actually came out 40 years earlier, and it'll feel like you can speak a foreign language. You'll be able to make children's eyes cross.
Be like, just shut up, and can I go back to watching this influencer on YouTube make slime?
Nobody on TikTok says prequel, Dad.
Yeah, that's probably very true. So we got Crosshair reunited with Hunter and Wrecker for the first time since, I think, Clone Wars. Since this show started, Crosshair has been on the side of the bad guys, quote unquote. Which this leads me to the question of like, Tech isn't dead, right? Like Tech's gonna come back. Everyone's still alive in Star Wars. No one's ever dead in Star Wars except Galen Erso and Jyn Erso and everyone on the planet. Although you could probably find some way that like, oh no, we kissed, and then because we were kissing, Cassian Andor and Jyn Erso were kissing, and that love was so strong that it protected them from
the Force moved them into the world beyond worlds to protect them, and they were deposited back in the Battle of Hoth, and they were there, but you didn't see them. And everybody's like, "Wait, what happened to you? Weren't you at Scarif?"
Yeah, Cassian Andor, as Stellar Skateboard would say.
Oh, I love it.
Did you see the SAG Awards? Sidebar, real quick.
I did not.
Alexander Skarsgård came out, and they were like, and he was with Omar Sy is in a great show on Netflix called Lupin. Just like my French accent. They come out and he's like, Alexander, like, I'm a big fan of you from It, but you're really scary. And he's like, that was my brother. And he's like, Westworld, you're really great on, also my brother. And he's like, Dune, he's like, my father. it was a very funny bit, and it reminded me that Alexander Skarsgård's dad is Stellar Skateboard, which is Stellan Skarsgård, which is fantastic, who is in Andor. Anyway, no one's ever dead. So to me, I feel like we're gonna at some point, because we know that Echo is off with Rex, and I do feel where the show is going next is that we're going to we got to go save the clones. Like that's what we're doing. That's what Echo and Rex are doing. We're gonna get up with them, And then Tech is going to be alive. So the original Bad Batch for the last, 5 episodes is going to save all of clonedom.
It'll be, the circular nature of the narrative will be these guys started out as the mutants and the cast-offs, and they wind up being the salvation of their entire brethren.
And we realized that the Bad Batch was actually the friends that we made along the way.
Oh, the real Bad Batch was the love between Cassian Andor and Stellan Skarsgård.
Stellar skateboard. Woo! All right. I've been delaying wanting this because this is the main thing I want to talk about. So at one point in this episode, first of all, I love this show, and as I was reading the recap, it occurred to me. So at this point, they go to somebody who's like, they go to steal the ship, and this guy's like, we can get you off the planet, but I need 30,000 credits. And so Crosshair is like, hey, let me do my thing. I'll just go steal us this money. And Omega is like, no, let's go win it back. Which is like, you never go to Vegas trying to win money, you will lose. Like, period. So that's like already doesn't really work for the story. But the fact that she then goes and wins like $30,000 and then like has to give it all back, has to give $5,000 because she beat the Empire guy, has to give another $5,000 to get information back about where Batcher went, then has to give the rest of it back to the information, but they still get off the planet using Crosshair's way. I'm like, we just did all of that for nothing because Crosshair wanted to do it. But the fact that that Omega is an excellent sabacc player and is able to win $30,000 playing sabacc, this just makes me want to do. Let me just I'm going to get my typewriter out real quick, okay?
All right.
Interior underground sabacc game. Young Lando, aka Donald Glover, and young Han Solo, aka Alden Ehrenreich, make their way in. Lando turns to Han and says something to the effect of like, all right, let's get in and get out. We want to make our money back, and then let's get out of this planet. I don't want to be here for too long. And then Han says something to the effect of like, don't worry, we got this. They get to the table. There, at the table, Han said we had to defeat the head of the table. I hear she's a real good player. Cut to, they sit down. Donald Glover, Alden Ehrenreich, and then, of course, live action Tamura Morrison. as Omega, as an adult Omega, being like, "Welcome to the party, boys," and then they have a full sabacc game with an adult Tamura Morrison, because we're talking like this is actually not this is probably like 3 or 4 years before ABY. So we're Solo, he could have to be probably like a teenage, but I mean, look at how old Rex is in Rebels.
It would be our two baby-faced leads and square-jawed, barrel-chested Tamura Morrison in a blonde wig from Hollywood Toy and Costume.
The ones that no matter how hard you comb it, it's still going to have like
just frizz. Any sort of light on the thing will reveal a nest of, wiry hairs.
That was the only thing I thought of. I was like, well, God, if you're going to make her good at sabacc, there's just no reason why she can't be in live action playing sabacc. You're adding more fuel to the fire at this point.
By the way, we live in Los Angeles, and imagine if anytime you're like, man, I could really use 30 or 40 grand. You just drive 3 hours, to the world's biggest ATM. You're like, I'll be back tomorrow, honey. I need $50,000.
I'm just gonna go sit down real quick, and I'll just make it all back. Yeah. Like I said, that always works. I've had so many friends be like, oh, I'm already down $1,000, but don't worry, I'm going to get it all back. And then I look them dead in the eyes and be like, but you won't.
Yeah, you will. Before you get that 1,000 back, you'll be down another 3.
30. Yeah. So just that was the one that came to my mind. It was just like watching her play. I was like, well, how is this going to work? And the fact that she was good, I was like, oh, there we go. Done right there. Done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Donald Glover wants to come back and play Lando. You do it. We do it. Let's make it happen. We could get Emilia Clarke. She needs stuff to do because I doubt they're going to put Guy in any more properties coming in MCU properties. I'm pretty sure that's something we will just conveniently Poochie the dog. So Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Customer Morrison's live action Omega playing Tabak with Han and Lando. Okay. That was my corner there for a minute.
I loved it. That's absolutely. We should write that together as men.
Oh, I love it. Let's do as people, as human beings. Okay, back to the actual portions of the show. We did get a little bit of Project Necromancer, like, what's the guy's name who's like a one percenter,
Hemlock.
Hemlock, literally modeled after everyone who stormed the Capitol. We got a little bit of him, and obviously, I feel like where the show is going with this, they are trying to establish the fact that they are trying to make force sensitive clones. He did mention how like Omega has the she was able to have form with the M cells, which are definitely midichlorians. Do you think at the end of this show there's going to be like they're just going to spell it out, or is it going to be like we're going to open up this thing at the last episode and it's going to be like, oh, what is that in there? It looks just like cut to nothing, or is there going to be just like this is the plan laid out, done?
You know what? I think maybe by the end of the episode you have Snoke. You literally either you see him come out of a clone tube, or you meet a Snoke who's like, in a Hemlock's version of a Kaminoan education tube or something. But I think
a young Snoke,
a very young Snoke, because I think by the time he meets Ben Solo in like 15 ABY, he looks like an older gentleman. So,
we know that clones age faster. So I guess you're right. So he would have to come soon here. And then they'll have to add some addendum of like, you must never speak of this to anyone. And then it's like, done. That's a reason why we've never heard of it. And anything else leading up to it, great, solved.
But that kind of stuff gets kind of wish-washed away all the time. I mean, like, people's level of awareness that there was an order of super wizards with laser swords called the Jedi is always very convenient to what the Jedi need to happen in the plot.
Yeah, you're right. It's always like everything in this stuff, especially when you're always goo-guying stuff. Like that was the thing that I didn't care for. I'll start talking about Ready Player 2 right now. The thing I didn't really care for, beyond the whole fact that like about halfway through, I was already too far into the book to be like, well, I kind of want to see what happens now. But it definitely is one of these things like, well, why are we doing this? Because it just like, well, yeah, we can do this because I took out my Guga and I did the Guga and there it is. And it's just like you're at this when you're playing chess with like laser swords, like anything is possible. But that's why the stuff that excels here is the stuff that is still grounded in character and emotion. That's why this stuff works. I don't tune in to, I want to see like laser fights and stuff, but like I also want to be like connected to the people that I'm watching. Otherwise, why am I spending so much of my life with this crap?
What I think you're trying to say is that you want laser fights, but you also want laser feelings.
That's it right there. That's like, can we put the fan-controlled laser sword chess? Please. Oh my God. Freddie Airmail. Yes.
Absolutely. I'll captain that team.
That's how, yeah, I love that. Let's do it. That was, you said you want laser. If you want, what would you say that quote again? We should put that on a t-shirt.
You want laser fights, but you also want laser feelings.
Bam. You know what? You just like honed in on that thought like a laser.
I've had a lot of coffee.
Freddie Airmail says laser fights don't care about your laser feelings. That's excellent.
Well played.
F your laser feelings. Oh, I love that. You would put that out, and that counter shirt would be available on Truth Social within like 2 minutes. Or like laser tears little.
Each line is in a different font.
Both. We should copyright both so we can make money off both sides of the issue.
Got to play both sides. It's the only way to do it. From the center.
Both signing. I'm trying to think. We've already touched so much on everything here. I wanted to say, it's the Crosshair. It's good that he is kind of coming back, but I also like there's this thing that happens a lot in not just fandom, but just in telling is redemptive arcs for bad guys or on the other side, and then we just have to kind of like yada yada the fact that he's murdered a bunch of people. Like he's like a murderer, like willingly. Like nope, I had the option. I removed my chip. I'm choosing to be a murderer. And we just have to kind of go like, which I feel like they kind of addressed by like the tense look that they had. But Omega was very much like, yeah, let's go. Let's go. I don't care if you've murdered people. Are we supposed to be okay with that, I guess?
Yeah. Hey, you might be a war criminal, but you're also family.
You know what? F your laser feelings. We need to get you into this laser family, right?
Yeah, this is when you're here, you're laser family.
The laser garden?
Yeah. Endless breadsticks at the
I love the endless breadsticks at the laser garden. Hi, my name is Al Gore, and if there's one place that I love to eat, it's the laser garden, because when you're at the laser garden, you're family.
Al Gore's laser garden. They're like, Al, it turns out lasers are way more better for the environment than lettuce and like produce. Just lasers.
Yeah. We don't have to you don't have to do any of that improper farming practices. What it takes to get the wheat to make, and you don't have to get any of those eggs from the chickens, because we know that those eggs are all got in a very inhumane way.
Lasers are nature's eggs.
Made it a lasers are nature's eggs. Oh, fantastic! I don't know if we recover from that, so let's just ask. Let's just ask Alex: Is this Star Trek or Star Wars?
This felt actually pretty Star Trek-y, a kind of a 2-person solo planet mission with gambling in it, and it just felt very Trekky.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm like, this was very much like Kirk and Dr. McCoy got left behind, and they can't beam them up, so they got to blend in on this planet for a half an hour. The only thing was missing was somebody making out with an alien, which any time that could happen.
I mean, literally.
Sorry, go ahead.
Literally, the Kirk Bones thing, and overlaying that on the "let's try it your way." Well, let's try it your way. Like,
yes. Oh my God, that's very Star Trek. You're right. That's even like Picard and Riker doing like same scenario. I wanted to say one thing I thought was hilarious in this episode was the fact that like Crosshair has to like fully cover his face to hide, but like Omega is just like, I'm gonna put this hat on. No one's gonna know it's me. And it's like the Empire is there, but like she's the female clone. Like there's like we're only looking for one, and she's just like, no, you cover your face, but I'm good. I'm just gonna put this hat on.
You're trying to tell all the law enforcement in the area have special helmets with lenses that can like upload people's faces to a data bank and like scan everybody's identity. No, I'm good with just the hat. Kenny has frozen. He's frozen. You were frozen. You're good now. And the little face you froze on was great. You froze like this.
Or if Alex is frozen, let us know in the chat, because Alex is just. Whoa, what's going on? What happened there? You were frozen for quite some time on my end. Was I frozen on your end?
You were frozen on my end for a lot less time than I was frozen on yours, but I never froze. I'm watching YouTube right now, and I never froze.
That's great. I'm glad that we had that time for everybody. Do you remember what you were saying?
Oh, who the hell knows? Oh, now Kenny's gone completely. I think the fate that's befallen Kenny Stevenson at this point cannot be known. If we were to say anything about it, it would be only speculation. So allow me to speculate and say that clearly some kind of mystery fate has befallen Kenny. Has he fallen victim to some sort of criminal gang? Has his home been lifted out of its foundations by a helicopter? Is a tsunami wiping away all of his location as we speak? We can't know. These would all be speculations, but what we can do is move on to who the winners and losers are of the episode, because I think we did determine this as Star Trek. The winners and losers, I think that the big winner is Crosshair. Of course, like, he is a big time murder guy and a bad dude, and they're gonna hand wash it away. I think Wrecker's gonna come in, the big lug, and he's gonna give him put her there, and like give him a little chuck on the chin, and they're gonna just kind of, in the same way that they do with Chopper, because if you remember in Rebels, Chopper, I can't remember specifically, but he like turned a little key, went brr, 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 and like a whole space station exploded and killed like 1 million people. And he's just, he's Chopper. He's a little ornery. But see, that's why you got to let the robots sass off. You got to let them vent that a little bit, or they, you get Terminator Salvation or whatever. I don't know who Kenny's winner is. You can find him on Blue Sky and ask him on Blue Sky. Oh, he's come back. He's come back.
I don't even know. Like, I literally cannot load it on my computer. I'm on my phone right now. So I try. It literally just like booted me out of the whole thing. And now it says your connection is not private. Chrome is sensing that StreamYard is not. I'm at an absolute loss. So let's just go to game time before I start crying, I guess.
Okay.
I can't access the stream.
Well, here. All right, we can still play the game time. It's my game time.
Can you access the all the stuff, the song? This is great. This is great for everybody who gets to watch this. This is awesome.
I don't know, because I don't know, Kenny.
All right, well, we're playing the game. Here we go. It's game time.
My mommy and daddy set the computer up for me. Okay, so here's the game time. In honor of this week's Dune 2 being released, I wanted to cast a spotlight on the original Dune movie released in the 80s. There's some really fascinating facts behind the scenes about the original 80s Dune. I was reading about it, and I there were some facts that I like, really some interesting stuff. One fact in particular I got really so this quiz is called Dune It Till You're Satisfied, the ultimate Dune movie quiz. And I want to thank Screen Rant for the sourcing on this. So I'm going to read a fact, and I'm going to read a piece of information that could be true or not true. You're going to tell me whether or not this is true about the original Dune from the 80s. Okay.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. So number 1, Helena Bonham Carter almost played Princess Irulan.
I think that's true.
Yes. She had to drop out due to her filming commitments for Room with a View. Number 2, Patrick Stewart was cast accidentally.
I know he's in it. And he's Gurney Halleck, right?
Yes, he is.
And he does sing like a proper Gurney Halleck should.
He should.
I'm going to say yes.
Yes, the original Gurney Halleck was recast, and director David Lynch thought he was actually casting another actor named Patrick Stewart. That's a fact. Is this true? The set was shut down for a protracted period of time due to Montezuma's revenge.
No, that's not true.
No, that is true. Yes. The diarrhea causing intestinal illness ran rampant through the cast and crew while they shot in Mexico. So number 4, if it weren't for Blade Runner, we would have had a Dune directed by Ridley Scott.
That's true.
Yes, true, making it especially circular that the person who directed the sequel to Blade Runner is now helming the Dune franchise.
Denis Villeneuve, yeah.
So do you think Patrick Stewart got diarrhea?
No.
I mean, yeah, he probably did. Make it so, number 2. Am I right? Question number 6.
Wow.
Question number 6. The sandworm design is based on an H.R. Giger drawing.
Yes, that's true.
No, his designs were never considered. Number 7. Do you think H.R. Giger gets diarrhea?
Everybody poops, yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look at that stuff he draws. Pretty freaky. I mean, that guy's got to have diarrhea. Question number 8. Question number 8 is, hey, imagine having diarrhea on Arrakis. I mean, the Fremen of Arrakis probably have a different name for diarrhea, like backwaters or something. But what if you diarrheaed inside the still suit that recycles all your liquid expulsions? And then after a whole day running around the sand, you go, oh, wow, I haven't been thirsty all day, but I did have that almost hobbling case of the squirts. But that means, oh, no. Oh, God's above. No. Do you think that would happen?
This is something I've considered when I was reading the book. Was like, well, what if your number two is a little more liquidy because it's already turning your pee into water. So the still suit, I'm gonna say, yeah, I think that does happen.
Yeah, probably. And number 9, the 80s movie is based on the books of the same name.
True.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. And that's Dune it till you're satisfied. The ultimate Dune movie quiz.
Hey, watch this though. Jess, can you actually play the game time stinger? Yep. We gotta have it in there.
It makes me dance. It makes me dance every time.
It's so good. All right. This was a real treat. Can we do Hoopla really quickly? It's not time.
Yeah.
We have an ad read. We haven't done a second ad read yet.
We have an ad read here, and it's for the Los Angeles Coalition for Courteous Dog Ownership. Another tip for courteous dog ownership: leashes help make sure that everyone's fur children can play safely. That's why leashes are mandated by law in almost all public settings. We know you can trust old Patch not to bite anyone or cause any trouble, but that's until he sees a discarded Nachos Belgrande on the street and runs out to screech, traumatize not only you, but some unlucky motorist. And then it'll be you on the news crying about how people need to drive slower. So use a leash or we gonna get you.
We gonna get you.
Yeah.
Incredible. All right. This is, I'm still reeling from my computer. Just absolutely the computer troubles I've been having today have just been the stuff of legends. But I do have to get out of here soon. And now my computer's not even load. This is just, I can't even load Hoopla on my computer right now. But this is the point of the show where
were you subject to a low atmosphere atomic burst and the successive electromagnetic frequency wave?
Maybe. This is the point of the show where we go to Hoopla. You can put in your library card and you can check out all kinds of comics, all kinds of stuff, including a lot of stuff that we talk about here on this show. Alex, do you have a recommendation for the month?
Right. I would say look at Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. It's probably about 20, 30 years old now, but it's a fully painted comic book. It depicts an Elseworlds or alternate future of the DC universe where a Superman has removed himself from the superhero community and lives in exile after the Joker kills Lois Lane, and a new breed of superhero has taken over and is ruining the world. And fate intervenes to see if Superman will decide and how he decides to put things right. The logo of the new Superman movie is partly based on the logo that's in the Superman in this story. It's a classic, one of my favorites of all time. Do it up.
I love that. That's great. I'm going to recommend, I've recommended these in the past. I've been reading the Scott Pilgrim series since the show on Netflix, which is a lovely show. I believe won Anime of the Year from some award show. Anyway, I'm currently reading the Scott Pilgrim 3 in the series, Scott Pilgrim and the Infinite Sadness. The reason why I'm recommending this is because the first two stay pretty close to what you've seen if you're a big fan of the movie, which I am. Whereas this third one actually kind of starts to take a little bit of a departure from what you've seen at the movie right around the time when he's supposed to fight Brandon Ross. Speaking of Superman, the vegan superpowered guy who's dating Brie Larson. So it takes a bit of a detour from what you've seen. So it's kind of new if you haven't read these before. And so I would recommend those. I realize now that we missed an ad read. So why don't you do another ad read, the final ad read, before we find out what our dogs thought?
Okay, so the Los Angeles Coalition for Courteous Dog Ownership with some tips, tricks for courteous dog ownership. Seriously, a lot of this is basic common sense, and it helps keep your dog healthy and happy. Also, it's a reflection of how you run the rest of your life. Seriously, we know this antisocial behavior isn't contained to your dog. This is how you drive. This is how you vote. So wise up, or we'll find you, and we gonna get you. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, and everyone will thank us for it. So that's the Los Angeles Coalition of Courteous Dog Ownership. Lock it up, or we gonna get you.
We gonna get you. I love that we gonna get you. My dog was just fast asleep while I was watching the Bad Batch. She is also going through a little bout of the fleas. So we're not. We're up at night with her while she's scratching a bunch, but she was resting. Sound asleep. So Bad Batch made her sleep so well it made her forgot that she had fleas. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but that's where we are. Flea's gonna get you.
Well, yeah. I mean, my dogs prefer I stay home, so they like that I watch the Disney Plus property rather than go out to see the Dune 2 movie.
Well, that's what we're doing next week. Where this is happening. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We don't have to see it on a Thursday night. We can go at any point during the next week, and we're going to see Dune Part 2, and that's what we're talking about next week. But until then, Alex, where can the folks find you?
Duke_midnight as spelled above me on Threads and Instagram and wherever major magazines are sold.
Kenny G. Stevenson on TikTok and Twitch. I Twitch streamed this week. I'm back, baby. I gotta tell you, I played a game called Fantasian, which is made by the people. It's a mobile game made by the people who make Final Fantasy, and I define those games as like where all the people are pretty. Everyone, whether you're a male or a female, you are pretty. That is the way you are drawn. That is everyone, even if you're fighting like dragons, you're still very pretty. And that's what we did. We did some previewing. It was very fun for those who watched. So go there. There'll be more. I think Wednesdays at 2 is a good time for me. And find me at Kenny G Donut King on Threads and Instagram. And I'm still floored by my lack of computer working today. It's been really great.
And yet we were able to recover. Welcome to this brilliant, beautiful digital age.
It's really great. I don't have the controls to end the show. Jess, can you do that for us? We'll just say bye.
Bye.